Imagine sending money to anyone without having to ask, who do you bank with? That's the future YME is bringing to Namibia. YME is Namibia's new payment experience designed to make moving money faster, more connected, and accessible for everyone. With YME, you'll be able to send money from bank accounts to wallets through any participating payment service provider. That means no more waiting for money to clear, worrying about where someone banks, or relying on cash for everyday transactions. YME is helping to build a more inclusive payment ecosystem where every Namibian can participate, regardless of where they live or the type of phone that they use. Whether you're receiving a pension, sending money to family, paying a bus or a taxi fare, buying from your local market using QR codes, or even running a small business, it works everywhere. You can even make payments using a basic mobile phone using USSD. Because when payments become easier, opportunities grow, businesses thrive, and communities prosper. YME, it works for everyone.
Every day across Namibia, people wait to move money. Different people, different journeys, one shared experience. But what if payments didn't have to wait? Introducing YME, a way to move money the moment life needs it. With YME, money moves where it's needed without making. Every day across Namibia, people wait to move money. Different people, different journeys, one shared experience. But what if payments didn't have to wait? Introducing YME, a way to move money the moment life needs it. With YME, money moves where it's needed without making people stand in line first. Instead of traveling to withdraw, payments can move directly between people wherever they are. For businesses, it means quicker payments, fewer cash delays, and more certainty that the money has arrived. For pensioners, it means support can reach someone at home when it matters most.
It's here.
For everyday trade, it means a sale becomes a payment in a matter of seconds. Less waiting, less cash in hand, and one connected way for Namibia to move money. Because when money moves faster, life moves easier. YME, it works for everyone. Every day across Namibia, people wait to move money.
Imagine sending money to anyone without having to ask, who do you bank with? That's the future YME is bringing to Namibia. YME is Namibia's new payment experience designed to make moving money faster, more connected, and accessible for everyone. With YME, you'll be able to send money from bank accounts to wallets through any participating payment service provider. That means no more waiting for money to clear, worrying about where someone banks, or relying on cash for everyday transactions. YME is helping to build a more inclusive payment ecosystem where every Namibian can participate, regardless of where they live or the type of phone that they use. Whether you're receiving a pension, sending money to family, paying a bus or a taxi fare, buying from your local market using QR codes, or even running a small business, it works everywhere. You can even make payments using a basic mobile phone using USSD. Because when payments become easier, opportunities grow, businesses thrive, and communities prosper. YME, it works for everyone. Imagine sending money to anyone without having to ask, who do you bank with? That's the future YME is bringing to Namibia. YME is Namibia's new payment experience designed to make moving money faster, more connected, and accessible for everyone. With WireMe, you'll be able to send money from bank accounts to wallets through any participating payment service provider. That means no more waiting for money to clear, worrying about where someone banks, or relying on cash for everyday transactions. WireMe is helping to build a more inclusive payment ecosystem where every Namibian can participate, regardless of where they live or the type of phone that they use. Whether you're receiving a pension, sending money to family, paying a bus or a taxi fare, buying from your local market using QR codes, or even running a small business, it works everywhere. You can even make payments using a basic mobile phone using USSD. Because when payments become easier, opportunities grow, businesses thrive, and communities prosper. WireMe. It works for everyone.
Different people, different journeys, one shared experience. But what if payments didn't have to wait? Introducing WireMe, a way to move money the moment life needs it. With WireMe, money moves where it's needed without making people stand in line first. Instead of traveling to withdraw, payments can move directly between people wherever they are. For businesses, it means quicker payments, fewer cash delays, and more certainty that the money has arrived. For pensioners, it means support can reach someone at home when it matters most.
It's here.
For everyday trade, it means a sale becomes a payment in a matter of seconds. Less waiting, less cash in hand, and one connected way for Namibia to move money. Because when money moves faster, life moves easier. WireMe, it works for everyone. Every day across Namibia, people wait to move money. Different people, different journeys, one shared experience. But what if payments didn't have to wait? Introducing WireMe, a way to move money the moment life needs it. With WireMe, money moves where it's needed without making people stand in line first. Instead of traveling to withdraw, payments can move directly between people wherever they are. For businesses, it means quicker payments, fewer cash delays, and more certainty that the money has arrived. For pensioners, it means support can reach someone at home when it matters most.
It's here.
For everyday trade, it means a sale becomes a payment in a matter of seconds. Less waiting, less cash in hand, and one connected way.
Imagine sending money to anyone without having to ask, who do you bank with? That's the future WireMe is bringing to Namibia. WireMe is Namibia's new payment experience designed to make moving money faster, more connected, and accessible for everyone. With WireMe, you'll be able to send money from bank accounts to wallets through any participating payment service provider. That means no more waiting for money to clear, worrying about where someone banks, or relying on cash for everyday transactions. WireMe is helping to build a more inclusive payment ecosystem where every Namibian can participate, regardless of where they live or the type of phone that they use. Whether you're receiving a pension, sending money to family, paying a bus or a taxi fare, buying from your local market using QR codes, or even running a small business, it works everywhere. You can even make payments using a basic mobile phone using USSD. Because when payments become easier, opportunities grow, businesses thrive, and communities prosper. WireMe. It works for everyone. Imagine sending money to anyone without having to ask, who do you bank with? That's the future YME is bringing to Namibia. YME is Namibia's new payment experience designed to make moving money faster, more connected, and accessible for everyone. With YME, you'll be able to send money from bank accounts to wallets through any participating payment service provider. That means no more waiting for money to clear, worrying about where someone banks, or relying on cash for everyday transactions. YME is helping to build a more inclusive payment ecosystem where every Namibian can participate, regardless of where they live or the type of phone that they use. Whether you're receiving a pension, sending money to family, paying a bus or a taxi fare, buying from your local market using QR codes, or even running a small business, it works everywhere. You can even make payments using a basic mobile phone using USSD. Because when payments become easier, opportunities grow, businesses thrive, and communities prosper. YME, it works for everyone. Imagine sending money to anyone without having to ask, who do you bank with? That's the future YME is bringing to Namibia. YME is Namibia's new payment experience designed to make moving money faster, more connected, and accessible for everyone. With YME, you'll be able to send money from bank accounts to wallets through any participating payment service provider. That means no more waiting for money to clear, worrying about where someone banks, or relying on cash for everyday transactions. YME is helping to build a more inclusive payment ecosystem where every Namibian can participate, regardless of where they live or the type of phone that they use. Whether you're receiving a pension, sending money to family, paying a bus or a taxi fare, buying from your local market using QR codes, or even running a small business, it works everywhere. You can even make payments using a basic mobile phone using USSD. Because when payments become easier, opportunities grow, businesses thrive, and communities prosper. YME, it works for everyone. Imagine sending money to anyone without having
For Namibia to move money. Because when money moves faster, life moves easier. YME, it works for everyone. Every day across Namibia, people wait to move money. Different people, different journeys, one shared experience. But what if payments didn't have to wait? Introducing YME, a way to move money the moment life needs it. With YME, money moves where it's needed without making people stand in line first. Instead of traveling to withdraw, payments can move directly between people wherever they are.
Subwa.
For businesses, it means quicker payments, fewer cash delays, and more certainty that the money has arrived.
Maklik.
For pensioners, it means support can reach someone at home when it matters most.
It's here.
For everyday trade, it means a sale becomes a payment in a matter of seconds.
Bamana ndangi shinene.
Less waiting, less cash in hand, and one connected way for Namibia to move money. Because when money moves faster, life moves easier. YME, it works for everyone. Every day across Namibia, people wait to move money. Different people, different journeys, one shared experience. But what if payments didn't have to wait? Introducing YME, a way to move money the moment life needs it. With YME, money moves where it's needed without making people stand in line first. Instead of traveling to withdraw, payments can move directly between people wherever they are.
Suboa.
For businesses, it means quicker payments, fewer cash delays, and more certainty that the money has arrived.
Maklek.
For pensioners, it means support can reach someone at home when it matters most.
It's here.
For everyday trade, it means a sale becomes a payment in a matter of seconds.
Bamana ndangi shinene.
Less waiting, less cash in hand, and one connected way for Namibia to move money. Because when money moves faster, life moves easier. Wyoming, it works for everyone. Every day across Namibia, people wait to move money. Different people, different journeys, one shared experience. But what if payments didn't have to wait? Introducing Wyoming, a way to move money the moment life needs it. With Wyoming, money moves where it's needed without making people stand in line first. Instead of traveling to withdraw, payments can move directly between people wherever they are.
Suboa.
For businesses, it means quicker payments, fewer cash delays, and more certainty that the money has arrived.
Maklek.
For pensioners, it means support can reach someone at home when it matters most.
It's here.
For everyday trade, it means a sale becomes a payment in a matter of seconds.
Bamana ndangi shinene.
Less waiting, less cash in hand, and one connected way for Namibia to move money. Because when money moves faster, life moves easier. Wyoming, it works for everyone.
To ask, who do you bank with? That's the future Wyoming is bringing to Namibia. Wyoming is Namibia's new payment experience designed to make moving money faster, more connected, and accessible for everyone. With Wyoming, you'll be able to send money from bank accounts to wallets through any participating payment service provider. That means no more waiting for money to clear, worrying about where someone banks, or relying on cash for everyday transactions. Wyoming is helping to build a more inclusive payment ecosystem where every Namibian can participate, regardless of where they live or the type of phone that they use. Whether you're receiving a pension, sending money to family, paying a bus or a taxi fare, buying from your local market using QR codes, or even running a small business, it works everywhere. You can even make payments using a basic mobile phone using USSD. Because when payments become easier, opportunities grow, businesses thrive, and communities prosper. Wyoming, it works for everyone. Imagine sending money to anyone without having to ask, who do you bank with? That's the future Wyoming is bringing to Namibia. Wyoming is Namibia's new payment experience designed to make moving money faster, more connected, and accessible for everyone. With Wyoming, you'll be able to send money from bank accounts to wallets through any participating payment service provider. That means no more waiting for money to clear, worrying about where someone banks, or relying on cash for everyday transactions. Wyoming is helping to build a more inclusive payment ecosystem where every Namibian can participate, regardless of where they live or the type of phone that they use. Whether you're receiving a pension, sending money to family, paying a bus or a taxi fare, buying from your local market using QR codes, or even running a small business, it works everywhere. You can even make payments using a basic mobile phone using USSD. Because when payments become easier, opportunities grow, businesses thrive, and communities prosper.
Keep clapping, clapping. They need a bit of energy. Thank you very much. You may be seated. I'm Yvonne Dausap, the current Executive Dean of the Faculty of Commerce, Management and Law, the faculty under which this public lecture series is taking place, because we have a school specifically dealing with business management, governance, and economics. But of course, there are other schools within the faculty that deals with diplomacy, business, and accounting and law. This lecture series is happening when two governors from our sister countries, in terms of population size, tourism, we share geographic space, even language. I was listening earlier on our PVC responsible for academic affairs, exchanging a few words in Setswana with our governor from the Bank of Botswana. Clap for them. Our leaders share a very warm relationship, even at the political level. And we are resource rich. And the thematic area around this lecture, particularly from both governors, are anchored in areas that both of us as countries share. So good morning, everyone. The other great thing that we share as a country is our accolades for the best beef in the world. So clap for Namibia and Botswana. PVC, before I call you to give us the welcoming remarks, I just want to establish the protocol for those persons. All of us are distinguished in the room, but I particularly want to acknowledge the presence of our PVC responsible for academic affairs, currently acting, Professor Alphonse Musimane. Our two governors from the Bank of Namibia and Bank of Botswana, Ebson Uanguta and Mr. Moseki. I want to acknowledge that these governors are also accompanied by their deputy governors. In particular, I've noticed the two deputy governors from the Bank of Namibia, but I'm sure there are also leadership from the Bank of Botswana in our midst. And I want to acknowledge all the leaders of both institutions that are in our midst. I want to recognize the presence of our UNAM management, those that may be in the house. I want to also acknowledge, even if he's not yet here, because the Botswana delegation is here under his tutelage, the High Commissioner of Botswana. And when he arrives, I'll also acknowledge him. I want to make a special mention of other individuals, luminaries that are in the room, our students, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and also those that are following us online. You are very, very welcome to this public lecture series hosted by the University of Namibia and also live streamed. Professor Musimane, please welcome us. Clap for him.
Good morning. Director of Ceremonies, E.D. Yvonne Dausap, Honorable Governor of the Bank of Namibia, Master Ebson Uanguta, Honorable Governor of the Bank of Botswana, Master Lesego Moseki, all university management members present, Deputy Governors of the Bank of Namibia and Bank of Botswana, we recognize you. Dr. Itula, opposition leader in the country, we appreciate your presence. Heads of industry, I'm quite impressed by the number of leaders in the industry present today here. And I believe through your engagement, the students will also benefit. High commissioners and ambassadors present, university management and staff, our esteemed students, good turn up, thank you very much. members of the media, it is my distinct privilege and highest honor to welcome you to the University of Namibia on behalf of our Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Kenneth Matengu. We are gathered for an occasion that bridges the gap between academic theory and national practice. Today, UNAM serves as a forum for crucial economic dialogue on the following topics: building wealth beyond natural resources, creating Namibia's next growth story, and the Pula Fund, past, present, and future. We are deeply privileged to host the governors whose decisions shape the very foundation of our economic reality. Please join me in extending warm, heartfelt welcome to the Governor of the Bank of Namibia and the Governor of the Bank of Botswana. Governors, we are grateful to you for carving out time from your demanding schedules to be with us. Your presence here today underscores a shared commitment to fostering intellect, leadership, and public discourse. An institution of higher education like University of Namibia thrives on the exchange of ideas. Our lecture halls, seminar rooms are designed to challenge assumptions, analyze trends, and seek solutions to complex global problems. However, education reaches its highest potential when the classroom connects directly with the real world. Today, that connection is being fully realized. We are not just reading about monetary policy or fiscal strategy from the textbooks. Instead, we are hearing directly from the chief architects of our nation's financial stability. The public seminar comes at a defining moment in global economic history. We live in the era marked by rapid technology disruptions, shifting market dynamics, and evolving financial ecosystems. Understanding the mechanisms of the economy is no longer a nice or a niche pursuit reserved only for a few financial major students. It is a fundamental civic necessity for every student, staff looking to make a living and a meaningful impact on the world. To our students, I want you to emphasize the extraordinary nature of this opportunity. You are the future leaders, entrepreneurs, policymakers, and innovators in our society. The insights you will gain today are not just academic data points. They are practical blueprints for understanding the economic forces that will govern your careers and your lives. I encourage you to listen intently, reflect deeply, and engage thoughtfully during the discussions. This is your chance to learn from the governors operating at the absolute pinnacle of public service and financial governance. To our faculty and researchers, today's seminar reinforces our university's mission to remain at the absolute forefront of relevant contemporary research. The intersection of academic inquiry and institutional governance is where the true progress is born. We hope that the dialogue sparked in this hall today will inspire new research, animate future classroom discussions, and strengthen the bond between UNAM and the Bank of Namibia. I think for our lecturers, you are welcome to take these discussions back into the classroom and continue to engage on the topics which will be discussed today. Governors, your leadership have steered our financial systems through complex global waters with steady resolve, foresight, and steadfast dedication to the public good. Your work ensures that the economic foundation upon which our citizens build their dreams remains secure and resilient. By coming to the University of Namibia today, you are investing directly in the next generation of thinkers and doers. For that investment of time and wisdom, we offer our profound appreciation. On behalf of the entire university community and the Vice-Chancellor, we welcome you to our university. We stand ready to be inspired, challenged, enlightened by your address. We look forward to a memorable and impactful learning this morning. I thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mosimane, and greetings to Dr. Itula. Our first lecture this morning is Building Wealth Beyond Natural Resources, Creating Namibia's Next Growth Story. And to talk to us about this is Mr. Ebson Uanguta, currently serving as the Governor of the Bank of Namibia and brings nearly 3 decades of experience in central banking, economic policy, macroeconomic research, monetary policy, and financial stability. Since joining the bank in 2000, he has held several senior leadership positions, including Director of Research and Deputy Governor, and has extensive experience in economic modeling, forecasting, and policy formulation. Mr. Uanguta holds a master's degree in economics and has completed executive education programs at Harvard Business School and the Harvard Kennedy School. Mr. Ebson Uanguta, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremony, Professor Yvonne Dausap, Mr. Lesego Moseki, the Governor of the Bank of Botswana, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Namibia, Professor Kenneth Matengu, in absentia, Pro-Vice-Chancellor of the Academic Affairs, Professor Alphonse Mosimane, the Deputy Governors of the Bank of Namibia, Deputy Governor Leone Dan, Deputy Governor Nicholas Mukasa, the leader of the official opposition in the country, Dr. Paduleni Itula, the captains of the industry that I'm seeing in the room here as well, members of the management of the Bank of Namibia, members of the management of the Bank of Botswana, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. I count it is both a privilege and a pleasure for me to join you here today at this public lecture under the theme, Building Wealth Beyond Natural Resources, Namibia Next Growth Story. We are very happy here at UNAM that UNAM has agreed to host us for a public lecture this morning. From our perspective, the topic of building wealth beyond natural resources is not only fitting given the present economic circumstances of our country, but we also believe it is an appropriate discussion and conversation to have with our young people at the higher institution of learning. We are taking advantage of the opportunity to have our governor from the Bank of Botswana, Governor Moseki, in our midst, so that we can make use of this time today to reflect on some of the policy options we are exploring as a country, but also to learn from our neighbor Botswana on how Botswana has utilized revenue from the diamond sector to build its economy. Namibia has traditionally been a national resource-centered economy. For decades, if we look at our GDP growth has been a story narrated on the margins of exogenous developments in international commodity prices. As far back as 1800, indigenous people around the Otavi mountain, they were mining, they were processing, and they traded in copper as well as copper products. Commercial mining commenced more recently in intensified following the diamond rush around 1908, when a young railway worker by the name Zacharias Lewala, he picked up a large shiny diamond whilst on duty near Colemanskop outside of Lutrets. Since then, our economic fortune as a country have risen and fallen with mining activities. As you are all aware, there have been recent discoveries of significant oil and gas reserves in offshore Namibia. As a result, our economic ties to the natural resources sector are set to deepen. Against this background, we thought that this was an opportune time to speak with our young people, not only about the importance of natural resources for the domestic economy, but also most importantly, how do we build wealth beyond the natural resources? I'm sure very few young people can imagine Tsumeb as a bustling mining town, because things are quiet now, as it was at the height of copper mining at Tsumeb Copper Limited in the early 90s. Equally, very few of our young people as well will understand just how transformative it was when you hear that your parent is working for consolidated diamond mines that we used to call CDM in the 1970s and in the 1980s. The conversation today aimed to ask, what will be left for the future generation once we have depleted the copper deposits around Tsumeb? What will be the answer? Once we have dug out all the uraniums in Erongo region, once we have excavated all the marine diamonds in offshore Oranienburg, and mine all the zinc around Rochpina, what will we pass on to the future generation? That is a fundamental question that we need to ask ourselves. Are tales and stories for good old days in Tsumeb and also in Oranienburg enough? When people are sitting around fires and they are lamenting and they are telling you about the good stories, how things used to be. Are shots that we can show about the booms and busts of the GDP growth over decades, are they sufficient to tell a story? Therefore, the challenge to the policymakers, those are the questions. And I'm glad that the policymakers have concluded that we need to do something differently about it. While each generation is entitled to reap the benefits of investment and production in renewable resources developed during their time, it is also equally important to pass a share of these resources to the future and the next generation. And that we talk about the intergenerational equity. With this realization, the Ministry of Finance, together with the Bank of Namibia, commenced a process to establish what we call is a sovereign wealth fund. Now, I will be taking you quickly through a presentation just to give you a snapshot, and then we'll come to what we are thinking that should be the way forward. Now, if I look at the GDP since 1980, the Namibian economy has grown considerably over the past 45 years. Our growth story as a country is woven from fluctuations, as you could see, in the commodity price cycle, cementing our identity as a resource-dependent economy, you could clearly see. Now, if you look at that chart, as a country, clearly we are blessed with diversified natural resource endowments. We've got diamonds, we've got uranium, etc. And in terms of non-renewable resources, Namibia mining sector is a world-class producer of gem quality, rough diamonds, uranium oxide, special high-grade zinc, gold bullion, blister copper, lead and zinc concentrate, salt, and dimension stones. The country is also home to several globally renowned mining companies that have adopted a state-of-art mining and processing technologies. At the same time, Namibia is also endowed with the world-class solar and wind resources as well, which contribute significantly to the domestic electricity supply mix. Although the tertiary industry, as you could see, make up about 55% of our GDP, the performance thereof is significantly influenced by the primary industries, particularly mining. There is that feedback loop between the primary industry, the tertiary, and the secondary. So what is our next growth story that we need to tell? In our perspective, the next growth of Namibia should be two-pronged. It should be about exploiting both our renewable and non-renewable resources that we have at our disposal. Despite the ongoing green transition agenda, we do not believe we should leave our oil and gas in the ground solely to meet the global carbon emission agenda. I think if you look at our countries in terms of the carbon emission at the global level, it could be about 0.0000. You can count the zeros almost. So we cannot fully take that responsibility that we cannot extract because fossil fuel has got carbon emission. We believe it is prudent for us to exploit our non-renewable resources. But at the same time, we also do all the necessary to utilize our renewable resource endowments to enhance and to advance the green transition agenda. This is not just a contradiction. It is an optimal utilization of our natural resources. In addition to the ongoing mining activities regarding diamonds, gold, uranium, zinc, and copper, we believe the petroleum sector will be the future anchor of our growth. Our country history shows that around 50 oil and gas exploration and appraisal wells have been spudded up to date. This exploration, as we know, It started around in the 70s, and in 1974, Kutu gas was discovered. But of course, we know up to now, nothing has yet been developed. In 2022, there was now the major discoveries that have started. That started with a Shell, and then with Total Energy, and then eventually with Gulp, and then with Rhino. Now, we are talking about reserves that are running into billions. The estimated reserves in Namibia are around 10 billions. Now, when you look at those numbers, what you could ordinarily extract, or what you call, these are the reserves that you can extract. It's always in the range of about 1/3 of that. That's what you could possibly commercially extract. Now, if I take an example just to give you an idea of how big one of these projects could be. If you take, for instance, Venus under Total Energy, it is deep in the sea. It is discovered about 3 kilometers deep in the sea and 250 kilometers from offshore Namibia. We are talking about when the wells are going to be developed and connected. Those wells are going to be taking the size of the whole of Windhoek. So it's going to be a city under the sea that will be connected by the pipes. And eventually all those pipes will be connected to bring the oil up into the vessel. That vessel will be stationary in the sea. It must be controlled. You remember the sea is very rough. It must be in the sea, standing firm to be able to extract the oil. That vessel must be there 365 days a year, possibly for the next 35 years. And we are talking about that on that vessel, at minimum, there must be about 200 people. Those 200 people must eat breakfast, they must eat lunch, they must eat dinner. So what does it mean? That's where the local content also kick in. So those people, they eat fish, they eat meat, because they are not angels from heaven. They need to eat. So they need to be supplied with food. Meaning to say that it is our responsibility and our entrepreneurs and our young people to prepare themselves for that. The size of investment that we are talking about a size of investment of about 17 billion US dollar. Just one block. Our economy is about 14, 15 billion. So meaning to say that one block, if you look at it in terms of investment, is larger than our economy. Daily production, how much will it be? We are talking about a daily production of, at a peak, of 150,000 barrels a day. Now you can calculate, because you are students, I will give you with this assignment, you can calculate 150 barrels a day times, what's the price of oil today? 88 US dollar. Then you know how much that will be. So that is the picture in terms of the future of oil and gas. Now, if I looked at the investment in terms of foreign direct investment, developments in oil and gas have already begun to affect our macroeconomic indicators. The net FDI, as you could clearly see, the inflows have reached record levels since 2022, and we expect further increase as projects move from exploration and developments to production. This will be a significant component of our growth story in coming years. I think you may have seen that our current account is in double digit. Part of that is being explained by the inflows of funding from outside that are coming to explore and develop the oil and gas industry. Now, again, when it comes to the renewables, Namibia has some of the best solar and wind resources on earth. It is underpinned by the year-round high solar irradiation and strong coastal winds as well. If you look at the solar electric system, in other words, that's a system that used to convert the sunlight into the current, into the electricity. In Namibia, it can generate up to twice as much power as a similar system that you will find in most of the European countries. That clearly shows that Namibia and Africa, we are well positioned also to invest in renewable resources. Clearly, these resource endowments position us as an emerging global leader in a renewable energy and also in green hydrogen. Unlike diamonds and oil, solar and wind, they do not deplete. They are there forever. They were available during our forefathers as they are to us today. And they will be available as well for the future generation. While the technology required to fully exploit these resources are still evolving and developing, the time is right for us to begin the necessary conversation and discussion to attract investment in these sectors and also unlock the economic activities that will be emanating out of these renewable sectors. Jointly pursuing the petroleum sector and also the renewable sector at the same time will anchor our country to follow a dual track of growth strategy. And we think that that is the option that we need to pursue. As I have already alluded to earlier, being a resource rich is not sufficient. As we have learned from our history, non-renewable resources are here today, but they are gone tomorrow. The contribution of copper to GDP has fallen almost to zero as we speak. And Tsumeb has long stopped being a bustling mining town. The story of successful resource-rich economy is anchored in converting the temporary revenue from the exploitation of non-renewable resources into a long-term financial assets that can produce economic returns for the generation. The challenge that is in our hands now is to make sure that the proceeds that are coming out of the natural resources, we invest it into the financial assets that will be able to generate returns. Now, if you take an example of Norway, for instance, Norway has created a sovereign wealth fund. If I look at the sovereign wealth fund of Norway, it is in trillions. Just the fund of Norway itself is bigger than most of the economies in the world. The fund of Norway, if I have to rank the economies, will be among the top 10 economies in terms of size. That clearly shows the good example of managing natural resources to create wealth for the current generation into the future generation. And that is the responsibility of each and every citizen when you are alive at your time. It is against that background that we thought that the creation of a Helvetia Fund is the only possible proposition moving forward. This fund has been created now in 2022. I will give you later the numbers, how it is performing. The law is being drafted. It is likely soon to go to Parliament for discussion. And we believe that once this law is set, it will really help us to prepare the country for the next generation. And maybe later on, that will be your responsibility to make sure that the rules that are going to be set for that fund are fully respected. The funds will have two objectives, essentially. The first one is to save for the future generation. What we call is the intergenerational equity fund. The second part will be for stabilization. The proceeds that will be coming from oil, the proceeds from the natural resources, whether it is diamonds, whatever you can mention them, there are portion of that that will be directed towards the sovereign wealth fund to be invested in there. And we believe if we do that, we will be preparing our country and we reduce our dependence of our country on the volatility of commodity prices, as you have seen, that our GDP has been fluctuating like this. And why? Because commodity prices are fluctuating. Now, the only way how you can insulate yourself from those kind of fluctuations is when you take the proceeds from the natural resources, you invest into financial assets. And in the future, you will only be benefiting from the interest of those assets. And those capital of those assets will move into perpetuity to sustain the future generation. If we don't do that, oil is depletable. We are now in 2026. Suppose in 2150, we need to think about those people that will be there at that point in time. When stories are going to be told that Namibia at one point had oil, but people look around, but what was it that was done with oil money? The only visible thing that they need to see is that our forefathers have invested these proceeds from the oil, from the diamonds, from the uranium, into financial assets. And we are benefiting from these financial assets. And once you invest those financial assets, they will be helping you to keep your GDP very steady and your income in the future very steady moving forward. The performance of Helvetia, if I look at the performance of Helvetia that was established in 2020, we only put an amount of 280 million in that account. Today, we have got about 580 million into that account. So that is moving in the right direction. And we hope with the oil coming, with other resources being discovered, and we continue to put a significant portion of those proceeds into the fund, then we will ensure that our country will be moving in the right trajectory. What are some of the lessons that we have learned when we were setting up this fund? In setting up these funds, we have drawn lessons from other countries such as Norway, where petroleum revenue is saved in a sovereign wealth fund under strict fiscal rules, alongside world-class local supplier industry. With withdrawals governed by law and investment held in low-risk international assets to preserve wealth and support long-term stability. Similar fiscal rules as well. I think a country like Guyana we have also drawn from their experience as well. We have also drawn some lessons from Chile, from Malaysia, and from Indonesia as well, from their saving. Closer to home, Botswana, the Pula Fund holds diamond revenue saving and support domestic cutting, polishing, and aggregation activities as well. The common thread across all these examples is to save the revenue that we are getting from the natural resources, build local industry, develop skills, and maintain strong institutions. There is no way that we can develop the country without strong institutions. I think sometimes people have got tendency of wanting to erode the institutions. Institution, we need to guard our institution jealously. Because the moment when you lose your institutions, you are gone. You are gone as a country. I always tell people, like, sometimes we treat government, and people think that government is just like a monster that can just be treated anyhow. Government is your parent. And we need to preserve government. When you see someone destroying government properties, we say, ah, that's government. Who is government? Government is you. When someone is abusing government's car, you need to be concerned, because government is you. I'm talking like this because I'm talking to the students, and it is basically to instill that culture of responsibility and making sure that of the integrity. Leveraging from the resource sectors. Now, in addition to prudent management of fiscal revenue through the Sovereign Wealth Fund, it is equally important to further leverage the natural resources sector through robust local content activities, the capacity building and technology transfer. In this regard, the natural resources sector can serve as a catalyst for skills development and for the agglomeration of know-how across the economy. This can be achieved by fostering auxiliary industries with strong local content, supported by clean regulatory environment and also inclusive participation by local players. Now, when it comes to the role of the tertiary institution, this is where I believe universities have got a strong role to play. Universities are the training ground for the labor force of any nation. It is thus imperative to ensure that our university remains attuned to the actual needs of the natural resources sector, so that their training programs and research agenda are aligned with the skills requirements of the real economy. Students can make a significant contribution through research, startup initiatives, and also internship. Our universities are the bridge that can turn our young population into a skilled workforce. Without such training, we risk the demographic dividend turning into a burden. We must therefore collaborate to ensure that the university work is not done in a vacuum, but is also tied to resolving broader national challenges and developmental aspirations. To recap, and also as I will be concluding, we are a resource-based economy whose growth model, as you have seen, has not translated into employment. The Welfare Fund is the mechanism for turning temporary resource revenue into lasting financial resources and beyond revenue. The fiscal sector can also seed auxiliary industries and facilitate the technology transfer. So what are some of the things that we can call to action? It is now for us to be part of the solution. Students, they can do their part in accumulating and building the technical skills the natural resource sector will need to flourish. follow the demand for labor, not just pure academic interest. The broader academic community can support this by aligning the curricula and also tying the research agenda to the national challenges and sectoral needs that we are experiencing in our country. The private sector can also play a role by investing in some of the industry along the natural resources value chain, and also partnering with academia to provide students with opportunities for practical training. On our end, as a public sector, we'll focus on building frameworks required to implement the national upstream petroleum local content policy, as well as building institutions and prudently manage sector fiscal revenues. From our side as a central bank, we are preparing ourselves to make sure that when these oil proceeds come, they will not be a curse, but they must be a blessing to our nation. That's why we are preparing ourselves in terms of having all the necessary tools that will be able to absorb all these proceeds. Because if we do not do so, those who are doing economics, you know, when too much money comes into the economy, people will start spending, and then inflation will rise. And then when inflation rises, inflation is disastrous. I have never seen something that can destroy wealth like inflation. If inflation goes up, your pension can be wiped off in few minutes. Your savings can be wiped off. Your cost of living, it will become unaffordable. So those are the challenges, and that's why for us who are tasked with the responsibility of price stability, we need to make sure that these proceeds are well managed. Now, history has repeatedly shown that prosperous nations are those that have taken time and effort to make the necessary investment and to build capacity and institution in preparation for unknown future. We expect the Pula Fund to be one such an institution that will help us not only to bequeath something to our children, but also to weather whatever storms that we may come across in the future. I hope we will do what we can from our respective advantage to help build a better Namibia. With this, I thank you.
Thank you, Governor Ebson Uanguta. Another round of applause for his reflections. I know that we had arranged to have a Q&A just after the lecture, but we will defer the Q&A to the end of the second public lecture. Before I call on Mr. Lesego Moseki, I also want to acknowledge the presence of the Botswana Deputy High Commissioner, who has arrived and is here on behalf of the High Commissioner. To talk to us and share his reflections on the Pula Fund, past, present, and future, is Mr. Lesego Moseki, who has served as Governor of the Bank of Botswana since November 2025. With more than 30 years of experience in central banking, he has extensive expertise in financial markets, reserves management, and monetary policy. He previously served as Deputy Governor and currently chairs the bank's Monetary Policy Committee and Investment Committee, while also serving on the Botswana Sovereign Wealth Fund Board. He holds an MSc in Banking and Finance from the University of Birmingham and has completed executive training at Oxford Said Business School. Ladies and gentlemen, I now call on Mr. Lesego Moseki to deliver his lecture. And just for the record, I am not yet professor. Please gladly call me Dean Dausap. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies, and what a speech by Governor Uanguta. Let me write on the protocols already established, but recognize the Leader of Opposition as the senior politician in the room and the Deputy High Commissioner to Botswana. Good morning to you all. It is a great honor and privilege to join you at this forum and to share Botswana's experience in investing revenues from extractive minerals. This is the success story of the Pula Fund, one of the oldest sovereign wealth funds on the African continent. I wish to convey my sincere appreciation to the Governor of the Bank of Namibia, my brother from the other mother, Mr. Ebson Uanguta, for the gracious invitation to address this distinguished forum on a subject of such importance and relevance to both Namibia and Botswana, and to thank him and the Bank of Namibia for the hospitality they extended to myself and my team this week. Also to appreciate the host, Professor Musimane, whose origins are in the village of Ngojane in Botswana. The Pula Fund is Africa's beautiful story. It is a story where oneness, being a Motswana, transcends tribal boundaries, where we believe resources in one community belong to us all, and that the community is only a custodian of the natural resource. There is no unilateral claim to mineral deposits or any natural resources in Botswana. The first stanza of our national anthem says, "Faseleno la rona," this is our land. Whatever is in the land, therefore, belongs to us all. In Botswana, like in Namibia, we never fought over mineral deposits. Sometimes we take the stability in our countries for granted. But in other parts of the world, and Africa in particular, natural resource endowments have been a curse. Africa holds 30% of global mineral deposits. Yet, in some mineral-endowed countries, including those with green transition metals, one finds abject poverty, conflict, and low economic growth, if any. Mineral revenues from gold, diamonds, and oil have been used to fund civil unrest and tribal conflicts. Illegal mining operations and corruption have led to pollution, deforestation, and the siphoning of billions of dollars from the continent, leaving Africa at the back end of the queue in the development program. In Botswana, mineral revenues, royalties fund schools, roads, and hospitals, and provide social safety nets. I am a proud product of the mineral revenues myself. The diamond story is the story of a country that was once dismissed as an arid, undesirable, sand-covered wasteland stretching into the Kalahari Desert. It was a country condemned as having no economic potential to the colonizers and likely to be a burden if fully colonized. Hence, a protectorate. Botswana remained a peripheral, poor protectorate until independence. Yet, beneath that land lay resources that would change the country's development trajectory. The lesson is powerful. What others overlook became the basis for Botswana's development trajectory. The Botswana story begins shortly after independence, when diamonds deposits were discovered. In Botswana, legend has it that God hid away the diamonds from the Europeans to preserve them for his chosen people, the people of Botswana. How then do you explain how some of the greatest explorers of the time missed the vast diamonds of Botswana? David Livingstone, Bartholomew Dias, and Vasco da Gama all traversed the vast and treacherous lands of southern Africa, discovering rivers and minerals. I don't know why they call it discovery, because those things were there. Yet they missed the diamonds of Botswana. They missed the wetlands of the Okavango. They didn't see the value of our lions and elephants. They discovered the Victoria Falls, but missed the beauty of the Chobe River. On the afternoon of the 1st of March 1967, 6 months after independence, a young unknown geologist named Manfred Max, who was working for a team led by Gavin Lamont and Jim Gibson, was reviewing the sands of the Central Kalahari Desert and was curious about some mineral traces as he washed and screened some samples of the sand. Further investigations led to the discovery of the Orapa kimberlite pipe, the first diamond mine in Botswana. 16 days later, 17th of March, other diamond traces were discovered nearby. The rest is the beautiful story of Botswana. After the discovery of diamonds, Botswana first invested heavily in infrastructure and education. Once those foundations have been laid, the country turned to a deeper question, one that Governor Uanguta alluded to earlier. How do we make sure that mineral revenues benefit not only today's citizens, but future generations as well? Sovereign wealth funds are one important answer to that question. Properly designed and governed, sovereign wealth funds help resource-rich countries convert finite mineral wealth into lasting financial assets, macroeconomic stability, and opportunities for future generations. They are therefore not merely investment vehicles, they are instruments of national transformation. Resource-rich countries are often vulnerable to the so-called resource curse, or the Dutch disease, where a boom in one export sector leads to weaknesses in other productive sectors, such as manufacturing and agriculture. When this happens, economies become more dependent on imports and more exposed to commodity price shocks. The danger is often opaque during boom years, when export revenues mask underlying vulnerabilities. But when the resources decline or prices fall, the weaknesses become clear and glaring. Pressure on imports, currency stability, rising inflation, and deteriorating living standards. That is why mineral revenues must be managed carefully. Countries need to save part of their revenues, maintain fiscal discipline, invest in diversification, and avoid spending beyond the economy's absorptive capacity. While policy objectives differ across countries, sovereign wealth funds are generally established to save wealth for future generations, stabilize government revenues, and budgets against commodity price or economic volatility, support strategic or economic development objectives, or pursue a combination of these purposes through hybrid funds. Over time, sovereign wealth funds have evolved to serve increasingly diverse and strategic roles. A common feature of successful funds, however, is that they are anchored on a clear fiscal framework. Such a framework balances the competing objectives of meeting current spending needs, promoting intergenerational equity, maintaining fiscal stability, and stabilizing volatile revenues. In a comprehensive framework, deposits into and withdrawals from the fund are not determined in isolation. Rather, they form part of an integrated system for spending, saving, and stabilization, informed by medium to long-term expectations about resource production, revenues, and accumulated savings. Traditionally, sovereign wealth funds have invested in financial instruments, including portfolios of bonds and equities. Over the years, however, many sovereign wealth funds have evolved to place greater emphasis on infrastructure investments, particularly domestic and regional infrastructure. In many African countries, sovereign wealth funds are more inward-looking, with only a small portion of the portfolio invested in international markets. For the Pula Fund, from Botswana's perspective, the Pula Fund was established in 1994 as a long-term investment portfolio managed by the Bank of Botswana with a dual mandate. First, to support fiscal stabilization, and secondly, to promote intergenerational equity. It was established in accordance with Section 35 of the Bank of Botswana Act, as amended, which provides for the establishment of a long-term fund or funds subject to the requirements of the primary international reserve. In its early years, strong diamond revenue supported current account surpluses and a favorable balance of payments position, allowing the country to accumulate foreign exchange reserves over time. In that environment, the Pula Fund was able to perform its intergenerational savings role while also strengthening Botswana's external buffers. As the country experienced higher fiscal surpluses, it transitioned from a defined pension fund for public officers to a defined contributions fund. Thus, the government drew down part of the reserves to fund the Botswana Public Officers Pension Fund and remove it completely from the government balance sheet. As we speak, the government does not have any pension liabilities. At a broader level, Botswana's foreign exchange reserves are divided into two portfolios: the liquidity portfolio, which may be regarded as a stabilization fund, and the Pula Fund. While the liquidity portfolio emphasizes liquidity over returns, the focus of the Pula Fund is on returns that preserve the purchasing power of the foreign exchange reserves and generate organic growth. In this regard, the Bank of Botswana was one of the first central banks to invest its foreign exchange reserves in relatively risky assets, such as equities, including emerging markets. The strategic asset allocation was crafted such that while a greater portion of the portfolio was invested in safer assets, such as developed markets bonds, a gradually increasing portion was invested in equities, starting with developed market equities in 1994. When we started, we had a portfolio with a 70-30% split between bonds and equities before transitioning to a 60-40 split. In 2018, we moved into a global fixed income credit portfolio and emerging markets equities to increase the return potential of the portfolio. We also had plans to enter the alternative investment space, but unfortunately we were hit by COVID and we had to abandon or put on hold that transition. Through the prudent investment of the Pula Fund by the Bank of Botswana, we have been able to navigate a series of crises. When the 2008 US subprime mortgage crisis unfolded and led to the onset of the most severe recession since the 1970s, which subsequently contributed to the turmoil in the banking sector, the Pula Fund provided a cushion for Botswana. We disinvested from mortgage providers such as Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae a few months before the crisis. I was then a young, energetic portfolio manager and was vehemently opposed to the idea of disinvesting. Fortunately, my colleagues and I were overruled by then Governor Mohol. Botswana remains a relatively undiversified commodity exporter. We threw money at unbankable projects, particularly in agriculture, because just like Namibia, we are traditionally an agriculture-based economy. However, we did very well in infrastructure development and human capital. Therefore, Namibia can learn from Botswana's story, where we did well and where we could have done better. More recently, the economy has faced a steady decline in the Pula Fund balances associated with the emergence of structural, fiscal, and balance of payments deficits. This has been driven largely by a significant reduction in foreign earnings, reflecting prolonged and seemingly structural weaknesses in the diamond market. The emergence of lab-grown diamonds has shifted the dynamics in the diamond market. Buyers are no longer price takers. They have a choice between natural diamonds and lab-grown diamonds. I appeal to the young ladies in the room to reject lab-grown diamonds. Inflows into our portfolio have fallen significantly. Consequently, liquidity demands on the fund have increasingly substantially, with inflows in some periods not enough to offset the outflows, leading to net withdrawals from the Pula Fund. In fulfilling its dual mandate, the Pula Fund has therefore had to shift more towards fiscal stabilization, even as its intergenerational equity objective remains central to its founding purpose. Increased liquidity requirements have pushed investment strategies towards more conservative assets, with implications for expected returns. At the same time, the fund's exposure to higher return assets has helped cushion the impact of drawdowns, underscoring the importance of maintaining an appropriate balance between liquidity, risk, and long-term return objectives. The fund has played this stabilization role adequately, helping the country navigate major shocks, including the global financial crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the effects of heightened geopolitical tensions. These interventions have, however, reduced our fiscal buffers and underscore the need to strengthen the fund's funding and withdrawal arrangement. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and students, the story of the Pula Fund is, in many respects, the story of Botswana's economic journey. It reflects the discipline to save during periods of abundance, the foresight to convert finite mineral wealth into financial assets, and the prudence to use those assets to support the economy during periods of stress. The fund has helped smooth the impact of external shocks, supported macroeconomic stability, and preserved parts of the country's mineral wealth for future generations. But the environment in which the fund operates has changed drastically. Prolonged weaknesses in diamond revenues, the emergence of structural and fiscal balance of payments pressures, and rising developmental needs all require a careful re-examination of how the fund is funded, governed, invested, and drawn down. The lesson is clear. A sovereign wealth fund cannot be treated simply as a pool of assets. It must be anchored on clear rules, strong institutions, disciplined fiscal management, and a long-term national vision. Its value lies not only in returns it generates, but also in the stability, confidence, and intergenerational fairness it helps secure. As Botswana looks to the future, the task is not merely to preserve the legacy of the Pula Fund, but to renew and strengthen it. This requires funding and withdrawal rules that are transparent and credible, investment strategies that balance liquidity needs with long-term returns, and governance arrangements that ensure that the fund remains resilient, accountable, and aligned to the national priorities. In doing so, we can ensure that the wealth created from yesterday's diamonds continue to support today's stability and tomorrow's prosperity. That is the enduring promise of a well-governed sovereign wealth fund, to transform temporary resource wealth into lasting national resilience. As I conclude, my message to the people of Namibia, the land of the brave, is this: the oil revenues are within reach. You can smell them. Plan for the revenues before they come. When they are here, you cannot think properly. You cannot budget on your payday. Invest wisely, and remember, electric cars are coming, and that will reduce the demand for oil. Student of economics, remember Economics 101, the supply-demand curve. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Governor of the Bank of Botswana, Mr. Lesego Moseki, for having nice jabs of laughter for us. We have a few minutes. We are slightly behind schedule, but we have a few minutes for questions. I would ask that you direct your questions specifically to the specific governor that you want to ask a question to, or both governors. I will take the first round of questions. We will have 2 rounds. The first round of questions, I'll take 5 hands. 5 hands. I see the lady here, the gentleman. Please don't add now. I've seen 5 people already. So the first 5. Don't budget on your payday, and also don't ask for money on payday. Let's have the first question.
Thank you very much.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Bokani Sisunyi Supang, standing in for the High Commissioner of Botswana and deputizing him. He has traveled for work in Angola. What an amazing set of 2 hours we've just experienced from the 2 governors. I just want to start off by saying I'm also a student of economics, but it felt like I was starting the lesson afresh. So really appreciate the insights. I think we have had an understanding of where Namibia is in terms of the new fund, well, relatively new since it was from 2022, and the More Experience Fund that was started in the 90s. And there's a larger conversation now, you know. It's one thing, of course, to have conversations around what you're doing at a national level, but the conversation more and more is driving towards now at a regional level, international level. I'm really more interested to find out between the two governors, where is the collaborative efforts now between Botswana and Namibia, both with experiences of the newer and then the older fund, learning experiences, shared challenges, and where are we going as two countries forging together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam.
Good morning, all protocols observed. I have one comment regarding the Pula Fund. If you look at the Pula Fund growth, like it's almost started along the same time that Norway started its fund. So if you look at now, the growth of Pula Fund is like, with respect to its GDP, it's 10% of Botswana's GDP, whereas if you look at now the way the Norway's wealth fund has grown, it's standing at 2.3 trillion, which is nearly 400% than its GDP. So I think still a lot has to be done. Okay, maybe regionally Botswana is better off, that doesn't let it slow down. Okay, the question for me is like, if you look at the impact of lab-grown diamonds, which is going to be unstoppable, even though the diamond authorities are trying to mark them, trying to slow them down, but it's not going to slow down. It's going to continue, so it will have a serious impact on the diamond revenues, and already we are experiencing it. So how are we going to mitigate that shocks that we are going to face? It's going to continue. And the second thing is now, how is, to our governor, so how is Namibia's Welfare Fund is investing, where it is investing, and how diversified it is, and then how transparent it is to the public. So how transparent it is. So these are my questions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Can I just ask, please, that we ask one question because we are slightly behind schedule. Thank you. The third person, the lady there. The other two, please, that, you know, up. Yes, where's the lady that was, yeah.
Good morning. My name is Gail, student doing honors at NUST, and I have a question for the Governor of Botswana. Seeing that Botswana has very similar characteristics to Namibia, especially looking at population demographics, Namibia has much more economic advantages with the fact that it is not a landlocked economy like Botswana is. With that in mind, how did Botswana go about gaining an independent currency and maintain good currency rate when compared to USD? And how did Botswana achieve that? That's my question.
Thank you very much. Yes, the gentleman there, student.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, my name is Absalom Dume. I'm a financial mathematician. My question is actually going to the governor of Botswana, the Bank of Governor of Botswana. Yeah, so my apologies, the governor of Bank of Botswana. My question is here, Governor. Here in Namibia, knowing that we are coming up with a new sector, or a new fund, rather the Welfare Fund, and you being in existing one, while coming up with that fund, yet putting the oil and gas petroleum sector under the president's office, from a diplomatic perspective, from a foreign government, how do you think that's going to benefit Namibia to cement the Welfare Fund?
Thank you. Was there one more hand there? Okay, we'll take only 3 more questions in the second round after the first. So if, Madam, do you want to take?
Good morning, and thank you to both governors for such a very insightful morning indeed. My name is Helena, and I'm an economist. I'm going to ask some questions, partially for myself and also partially for the benefit of some of the students, I think, in the room. My question is on the intergenerational savings objective for the Sovereign Wealth Fund that we're expecting. I noticed that in Botswana's Wealth Fund, it was more of a indirect access that you get to those savings, so they funded scholarships and etc. In Namibia, it seems as if there's a perception that once the oil money comes, everybody's going to be getting some sort of a stipend or something. So could the central bank maybe speak to how people will access, how and when they will access the intergenerational savings? And then for Governor Moseki, you mentioned that the Pula Fund did have some shortfalls, and there were some things that could have been done to diversify the fund better and put them in a better position to offset the decline in the diamond market. What should the Pula Fund have done differently? What do you think they should have invested in so that we could, as Namibia, could avoid some of those pitfalls?
Thank you very much. Governors, please, you have the floor for a response. Either you can come to the podium or we can, okay.
There's no mic there. Thank you for the questions. Let me start with the last question. What could we have done as the Pula Fund? Maybe I will be biased. I managed the Pula Fund for 30 years. I don't think we could have done anything better than what we did as a fund. However, we could have done many things better as a country, which will be my advice to Namibia. Because we thought we will always have these diamonds and mine them and sell them. First, we did not diversify the economy adequately so that we can have other sources of growth. Because we have the diamond revenues, we could not differentiate between social programs and economic programs, and everybody benefits from what could be social programs. The son of a governor gets free education all the way from primary school to university because we have diamond revenues. What happens is that myself and my colleagues here, we all send our kids to private schools. When it's time for them to go to university, we say government. So those are the things that we could do better. You must pay tax. When you have resource revenues, we don't charge enough tax, or even more importantly, we don't collect enough. Lab-grown diamonds, how are we going to mitigate them? We have to find clever ways of mining natural diamonds, probably cheaply. I understand the alluvials for Namibia and Angola are cheaper to mine so they can compete. We have to optimize the way we mine. I can be controversial and say sometimes we overpay people, even those who are not actually mining. The currency peg, how have we been able to sustain the currency peg? Very simply, because of our foreign exchange reserves position. The reason we are worried with our reserves at 6 months of import cover, and Namibia is not so worried at 3.5, is because for us, we have to anchor the Pula with the foreign exchange reserves. We are the primary supplier of foreign exchange in the market, so we are able to control the Pula exchange rate. Once these reserves disappear, is going to be a challenge. Diplomatic effects, we have the representative of the High Commissioner here, but personally I don't think it's critical where you place the fund. The important thing is to have a proper governance structure. I don't think the president is going to be giving directive on how you manage the fund. Is to have a proper governance structure, have very clear withdrawal rules, have very clear funding rules. If you are taking 10% of your mineral revenues to the fund, it must be 10%. If the rule says you can only draw a portion of the returns and not the investment capital, it must be so. And I'm very happy Governor Uanguta saying the law is going to be taken to Parliament. It is important that Parliament provides adequate guardrails. Regional cooperation. We have had a series of discussions between myself and Governor Uanguta since the beginning of the year. Our president, past and present, continue to meet. As you clearly said, Botswana is landlocked, but thanks to the people of Namibia and the government of Namibia, we have a facility at Walvis Bay, and there are discussions whether we could create a railway to reach or to connect Botswana to Walvis Bay through the Trans-Kalahari Corridor. So those discussions are very important, not only for Botswana, but for the region. Because the developed world is becoming more and more inward-looking. So it is very important that as Africa, we collaborate, we produce, and we sell to the rest of the continent. I think I will leave the difficult ones to Governor Uanguta.
Thank you very much, Governor Moseki. I think you have more or less answered all the questions. Maybe the only question that I will be answering, possibly two. The first one is on how the Welvetia Fund is going to be managed. So again, I think as we have stated, there will be very clear rules that will be spelled out in the law of what will be done with the proceeds that will come from natural resources, whether it is oil or whether it is any other minerals. The sense is that at least from those resources, a significant part of those proceeds should go towards the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And as we indicated that there are two funds, one is for intergenerational, the other one is for stabilization. Now, if one is to split the significance and the amounts and the balances that are in that fund jointly between the two, at least at any point in time, 80% of the balances in a Sovereign Wealth Fund of Helvetia will be for the intergenerational. And at least 20% will be used for stabilization purpose. What is stabilization? For instance, if there are immediate shocks in the economy that you did not anticipate, for instance with COVID, that's when now the rules will allow you to tap from the stabilization fund. But the rules will not allow you to tap from stabilization fund if you have got a new government, for instance, and then they decide to increase the expenditure. the rules will not allow you to draw from that. So it's only stabilized when there is a shock in a system. So that is how it's going to be managed. The investment currently, it's a very transparent process. The Bank of Namibia is the custodian. We are doing that on behalf of the government, particularly the Ministry of Finance. We invest that in very safe instruments. At any point in time, we send the report of the performance of the fund to the ministry. It is the prerogative of the Ministry of Finance to share it in Parliament and eventually also to public. And also during the Monetary Policy Committee, this question keeps on coming up, and we are very transparent to show that where we were the last time and how we have performed. If we look at our return over the last 4 years, it has been around 16%. That shows how prudent we are managing that. Anything else? On lab grown, it's true. I fully support the appeal to say that both young men and young women, young ladies, let's not accept the lab grown diamonds because it's fake. We need, genuinely, love must be natural. Love cannot be produced in the lab. So something that is being produced in the lab will not really last long. So don't accept it, just reject it. Then the demand for our diamonds will return. So that's how I support my governor here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have, unfortunately, very, very limited time. So I'm going to take one burning question that will be directed to both governors, that will also give them an opportunity to make their final remarks, not long. So I will take Dr. Itula for that last question. There'll be a few announcements. Don't go. The banks have made provision.
All right. Good
Dr.
morning.
Itula,
thank you very
please.
much. Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. And may I welcome our brothers and sisters from across the Kalahari. Feel welcome in Namibia. I'm sure you'll enjoy our beef to compare to your beef. Thank you very much for such an insightful and informative, mind-eroding, and also causing mental indigestion information. And I'm absolutely appreciative. I've got one question. Other than warning the young ladies to be cautious about the laboratory fake diamonds, what strategies would Botswana put in place to avert the potential revenue loss as a result of the competition? We seems to be really smelling the oil and the oil revenue, as it were, and we have been having very disturbing remarks in the public from some sectors in respect of borrowing money against the resource as yet in the ground. What I am concerned about is the fact that we seem to be very, very far from preparing, especially in the upstream, for the energy and transportation infrastructure in our oil industry. But we have got a long way to go to finance all those infrastructure. So what financing options? Of course, other people talked about borrowing against the revenue, but I'm thinking about bonds more. But what financing options other than bonds suits resource-backed projects in Namibia? Because we still have to work hard towards that. Thank you very much indeed.
Governors, your final reflections?
Thank you, sir. Strategies to avert or cushion the economy against the decline in diamond revenues. That was the question. We have, for the past 18 months or so, been looking now seriously at other potential sources of growth. We have what we call the Botswana Economic Transformation Program, which has put a lot of projects under assessment and came with about 186 projects that we think are viable. And some of them have already started, particularly in energy, solar, and the environmentalists will forgive me, coal as well. But my brother did say our contribution is many zeros before you get to one. So we have put several plans for solar energy. We are currently importing a lot of energy from South Africa. So once we can evacuate that energy to the national grid, we will be able to reduce the import bill and therefore cushion the economy. Ultimately, we intend to be exporting that energy to the region, including to Namibia. So that's where we are going. We're also working on other agricultural and manufacturing initiatives to generate growth from elsewhere other than diamonds. Thank you.
So in terms of, I think there are only possibly 2 sources or 3 sources of funding government operations, particularly when there is a deficit. The first one is to issue treasury bills and bonds in the local market. The second one is also to reach out to the external market and you tap from the international capital market. We did that in 2015 when we first issued the Euro bond. That is also an option that is on the table. The third, of course, is government has got assets, and those assets are in different state-owned enterprises, is of course to come up with a policy that will really ensure and reform that these state-owned enterprises, particularly those that are commercials, for them to be able to perform well and pay their dues and dividends to government. Through that, the government financing will become better and better by the day. I think those are the various options that are on the table. The issue of government assets in terms of divestiture, I think that has really been quite a very difficult question that we have not really been able to deal with. But again, it is something that should be on the table because one should really look at it quite objectively that government has got assets and those assets should not be wasted. Those assets should be used productively. And those are all the options that we really need to look into and explore that how best people of Namibia will benefit from those assets. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another thunderous round of applause for our 2 governors. And a round of applause to particularly our students for asking such wonderful questions, incisive questions. Just a quick announcement before we do a very quick vote of thanks and also just to say that we've prepared something small for everyone, so please remain seated until we are done with our program and you will be served with something outside. I also want to indicate that we will take a quick group photo just after this vote of thanks. So I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the university and the university management to thank everyone. I particularly want to thank Professor Alphonse Musimane, the Acting PVC Academic Affairs, for locating the lecture for its importance and benefits for an institution of higher learning. I want to thank Mr. Ebson Uanguta for his reflections on building wealth beyond natural resources and importantly on the challenges and opportunity of creating Namibia's next growth story. The conversation with our young people to ask what will be left for the future generations. A question I believe he started to answer. Reflections on the Botswana context, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Governor of the Bank of Botswana, Mr. Lesego Moseki, for sharing Botswana's experience through the story of the Pula Fund, its past, present, and future, as a story of Botswana's journey to save during periods of abundance and to ensure resilience during periods of distress, and reminding us not to budget on payday, and I'm reminding you not to ask for money on payday. Bringing these two lectures together, taken together these two lectures, remind us that national wealth is not determined by natural resources alone. It also depends on the strength of institutions, sound economic choices, responsible management, and a long-term vision. The challenge is therefore not only how to create wealth, but how we manage, preserve, and invest in that wealth so that future generations also benefit. Reflections in the university context, public lectures as this speaks directly to the role of a university as a place where academia, policy, and practice come together. They create a space where ideas can be tested against real-world experiences and where students and scholars can engage directly with those shaping economic policy. Universities have an important role in developing the knowledge and people who will shape Namibia's next growth story. For UNAM, this is also about teaching our students not simply to understand the economies they inherit, but to imagine, shape, and help build the economies of the future. Thank you, everyone. The university community, Dr. Itula for being here, the Botswana people. I'm going to try the ID in 2 weeks' time when I travel. I hope you've used your IDs when you're traveling here. It was a wonderful experience. Did you use your ID when you traveled here? Wonderful. So thank you, everyone, for your time, and we look forward to the next public lecture series. Give yourself a thunderous round of applause. We have come to the end of our public lecture of two great governors and two great stories, but I want to ask you to please remain seated as we prepare the governors and the UNAM management team for the picture.
Imagine sending money to anyone without having to ask, who do you bank with? That's the future YME is bringing to Namibia. YME is Namibia's new payment experience designed to make moving money faster, more connected, and accessible for everyone. With YME, you'll be able to send money from bank accounts to wallets through any participating payment service provider. That means no more waiting for money to clear, worrying about where someone banks, or relying on cash for everyday transactions. YME is helping to build a more inclusive payment ecosystem where every Namibian can participate, regardless of where they live or the type of phone that they use. Whether you're receiving a pension, sending money to